There's a hidden detail in Welcome to Derry that is way too specific and way too consistent to be an accident. And when you line up the clues, it points to something far more unsettling than anything Pennywise shows us on screen. So today we're going to be breaking down 4 layers that change how you're going to see Pennywise forever. Welcome to The Real Spot. I'm Bobby Foster. Let's dive in. And it starts off with Ronnie's dad, Hank. Hank makes one of the most terrifying choices in this episode. He'd rather be accused of murdering children than admit that he slept with a white woman. Because one lie equals prison and the truth equals a lynching. And this moment truly gets to me, honestly, because everyone thinks this is ancient history, but it isn't. My dad, mine, could not swim in his local pool and had to go swim in the lake instead. I remember before he died, he told me that story and you could still hear the pain in it. This horror is literally one generation removed from me and I'm 31. And in a story with horrifying hallucinations and jump scares, that is the scene that made me feel the horror down to my bones. But this moment really matters because it sets the tone. Every character in the show gets caught in a trap, whether that be physically, mentally, or emotionally. And little does Hank know that his daughter Ronnie is facing a similar trap. She's already hallucinated being trapped in her mom's placenta, which resembled her guilt of her mom dying while giving birth to her. So Hank is trying to protect himself, his family, and the woman he slept with by lying. But he doesn't realize that this cycle of being trapped has already captured his daughter and other people around him. But would the truth set him free or just further trap others that he loves? And this same pattern repeats everywhere in the story, and it's not a coincidence, and we're going to talk about why it's important as this video goes on. And the next example is an important piece of the puzzle. We learned something brand new this episode. We learned that it can't leave Derry, and it can't leave because the indigenous people found a way to trap it in the woods. But before the indigenous people ever even found out a way to do that, the entity, it, wasn't powerful enough to escape the forest anyway. It was being held back by one dagger made out of the rock that it crashed down to earth on. And so for millennia, the entity existed alone. It was cut off from everything, contained. But when the colonizers came and ignored the indigenous people's warnings and entered the forest, that mirrors what happens in the present day too. Just like the indigenous people tried to warn the colonizers, Lily and the rest of the kids are trying to warn all the adults that something is coming after them, but they won't listen. So will the adults make the same mistakes the colonizers did? And if they do, what's that gonna do to the entity? Is it gonna make it even stronger? Will the military cross the boundary just like the colonizers did in the past? History repeating itself is a big theme in the It universe, and unfortunately, it seems like these characters are gonna be repeating the same mistakes of the past. Because when the colonizers entered the forest where It was trapped, that's when It fed on them, grew stronger, and almost broke free. So this isn't just the lore of the entity. It's establishing a pattern of being boxed in, contained, and unable to escape. And that pattern starts showing up in every scare in this show when you look back on it. By the way, if you love talking about Welcome to Derry but feel like you have no one to talk about it with, go ahead and join the Real Spot Discord. We love talking about shows and would love to have you a part of those conversations. The scares in these episodes are not random. They all have the same shape. It starts with fear, turns into isolation, and then people become trapped. For example, you have Will getting scared and it plays on him losing his father in the Air Force when his plane crashed down, and it also foreshadows his own death in the future, being burned, trapped in a house. Also, it seems like It is doing that this season where it could read the future. It even read Halloran's future. I didn't know it could do that. Then when you go to Marge's parasitic hallucination, it forced her to harm herself because she was trapped in her own mind and unable to escape the peer pressure and fear that she felt from that. And honestly, this scene had to be the most disturbing on a gross level that I've seen in an It movie. The body horror was on another level here, which made it even more terrifying when all the kids walked in and thought Lily did it, because they really must think she's just super unhinged now. Then you even have the opening scene of the season with Maddie where he gets into the car and then the demon baby is born and he literally gets locked in the car, trapped in the car. Then when Taniel's telling the story of his ancestors, the indigenous people and their visions when they're hallucinating, it becomes a priest and other white colonizers, and it's a symbol of those colonizers who stole their culture, their autonomy, and their freedom. And so in a way, it's a cultural, religious, and systemic trap. By the way, what do you think of the baby popping out of the priest and what that could represent? I wasn't able to figure that out. And so by now, the show is subtly showing us something important, but it hasn't clicked yet. And it's Lily that's the key to unlock this pattern. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more videos like this on your feed, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe. Lily is the clearest example of what this episode is doing. It uses everyone's ableism against her, twisting every moment to make the town see her as a dangerous, unstable, crazy person. Not because Lily's a threat, but because isolating her makes her powerless. She's framed, gaslit, dismissed, and left alone. Her credibility's gone, her support system's gone, and she's becoming trapped inside of a version of herself she can't break out of. Just like Ronnie's dad, just like Marge, just like Maddie, just like Will. And it's really heartbreaking to see just this young girl stuck in grief from her father dying, traumatized by being in a theater watching her friends die, and now put in a situation where she's getting framed for hurting her friend, when it was really Marge who was hurting herself and Lily was trying to save her. And not only that, it was Marge that was setting up Lily to get bullied in the first place. And on top of all this, now she has to go back to an insane asylum where she's going to be physically trapped and mentally trapped from the drugs I'm sure they're going to put her on. Everyone keeps ending up in a cage, either physically, socially, or psychologically. And once you line up all these moments, the show's message becomes impossible to ignore. So here's what I've put together. The way it haunts people mirrors the way it has existed for millennia. Trapped, contained, cut off, isolated, alone. Not because the entity feels that way or wants revenge, but because the writers are using the entity's imprisonment as a storytelling blueprint for how fear works. Fear traps us. Fear isolates us. Fear makes us feel alone even when we aren't. The characters are now experiencing the same shape of horror that its own existence is built on. Villains in stories typically reflect the conditions that made them, and with the reveal of its origin, this entity is no different. Welcome to Derry shows us something chilling. It doesn't just feed on fear, it builds cages out of it. The same way it was trapped for millennia, it now traps everyone it touches. And once you see that pattern, the entire story feels different. And that makes Pennywise even more terrifying. Tell me what you think about this perspective, and if there's a moment that stood out to you, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious what you noticed. And if you want to talk about this even further, go ahead and join the Real Spot Discord. Until next time, I'll see you.